Saadadeen,
Suleiman.
how are you, bro?
Not bad, man. Today we got a big day. We're going to Brothers.
Come on.
Brothers is a Somali restaurant for those that don't know in Bruce Grove, Tottenham area. I remember going there a couple years ago and it was the best food I tasted in that whole year.
That's a massive statement. So you're going to need to
Bro,
break that
I'm
down
not gonna
for us.
So basically, I'm from Shepherd's Bush here. So anyone that's from Shepherd's Bush, there's a lot of Somali restaurants there. There's Savannah, there's the village not far as well. Yeah. So Somali cuisine is just part and parcel of growing up in Bush, innit? When I went to Brothers, all of the Somali cuisine I tasted before, I just threw it out the window. I was like, nah, this is the new gold standard.
Okay.
And I knew it was the real deal. From when you walk in, they give you a banana straight away. So that, to me, I was like, okay, they're setting the tone already. And the portions are huge, and it's fairly cheap. I remember a group of my friends, we were sitting in like a table of 5, and we all ate from the same plate. And
that's wavy.
Everyone, yeah.
Was that the first time you've done that, like with your boys? You know what I mean?
I think it was,
because in certain ethnic households that's quite normal, but like with your boys,
yeah, that's true. I never thought of it like that. But we all eating from a reasonably big plate.
That's wholesome. I can't lie.
Yeah,
that's
it was nice,
cool.
man. It was very communal.
Yeah,
literally that's the vibe
that.
you get. It's very communal. I remember we went after there was this inter-London uni Somali society.
The Joko Cup.
The Joko.
Now which one?
So yeah, it was inter-London uni Somali society tournament. Yeah, a very niche tournament, innit? So yeah, we went to that with a couple of my friends. We ended up losing, but that's beside the point on that day. And then we just all went to this restaurant, and it was a good day, man. Like I just remember being blown away. Bro. But so I'm looking forward to today, man. We're gonna go there today after this. So.
Nah, man, I'm excited as well. You've got me hyped up, bro. I'm ready for that free banana when I walk in. Now, you know, bruv, it sounds like it's the perfect restaurant. You get freebies when you walk in. The portions are big. It's cheap. And you're just like with your brothers.
Yeah.
And it's called Brothers. It's mad. Sick. But yeah, man, without further ado, let's get into this conversation because I'm really looking forward to it. It's about time that we unpacked your story, your journey. So yeah, today's, as you can see with the title of the episode, today we're going to be speaking to Saadadeen. Me and him are going to have a convo back and forth about his journey. So yeah, let's start. Bro, let's start at the start. So what is your first memory? Like, what's your earliest memory that comes to mind?
An early memory for me is me getting this scar on the side of my head. I don't know if you can see.
Come on, Harry Potter.
Bro, for real, I was like, yo, Harry Potter. And I got that scar running down the road after primary school. And I remember dropping, I think I tripped on a stone or something and just smashing the side of my head against the pavement. And looking at my hands, and it was just all red. And my mum was wearing a jacket, and it was a grey jacket. And from the blood, it just turned red, basically. And the two moments I remember from this memory, and the reason why it stands out to me, other than the fact that it left me with a permanent scar, is that I, for the first time ever, was given a gingerbread man at the hospital. And I'd only seen a gingerbread man on TV before. Yeah. A gingerbread man like the gingerbread man in Shrek, if you've seen Shrek. Yeah.
If you know, you know.
And I got given like a lot of chocolate, like a 9-pack of Penguin chocolate bars.
Bro, I used to bang out Penguins.
Yeah.
Man. They had the joke at the back.
The joke at the back.
If you know, you know.
Yeah. So I remember getting given like all of those things. I lost the gingerbread. I distinctly remember I was looking for the gingerbread man. I was like, yo, what happened to my gingerbread man?
You tell me the gingerbread man ran away. Them ones.
So yeah, and I suppose that's one early memory that will stay with me because I have every time I look into the mirror, I get flashbacks.
For some reason, that doesn't surprise me because from me knowing you now, you're very high energy. And like I'd say that's one of your characteristics, high energy. Obviously, you play football. Well, maybe we'll talk about that later as well. So you running around as a kid and just going mad is not surprising.
Yeah, so high school, I would describe my high school experience as a typical inner city state school experience.
Okay, that's a massive statement. I mean, I completely understand what you mean because I know you and I come from a relatively similar background. But for people that don't know what that means, what does that mean? Break it down for us.
So look, there are shows on TV, yeah, like Waterloo Road. I don't know if you've ever seen it, yeah.
Yeah, I remember
But
Waterloo Road. Yeah.
mad things happen in Waterloo Road, yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say it's not that crude and unnuanced as like someone just does a madness like every other week to keep the ratings up. Yeah, it's not that bad, but there, like, what you think? There are certain stereotypes that exist. To the extent, do they exist to that extent? Probably not, right? But look, one way that I think shapes inner city state school is the way violence is manifested. So I would say that is particularly unique in inner city state school London, but probably other big cities or urban areas. What I mean by that is, yes, violence happens in everywhere you go, like especially as an adolescent, etc. But the way it's manifested and the impact and effect it has on people's lives in secondary school, in my opinion, from what I've seen, both working in secondary schools and obviously having been there, looking back, is, I think, damning. Like the extent to which you're at the mercy of the environment in which you're in is, for me, most blatant in a city state school.
Cool. So would you say that, so you've already said that the inner city state school experience is relatively unique,
Yeah.
in that violence is it kind of manifests in a unique way,
Yeah.
right? Why would you say it manifests in a unique way, like compared to non-inner city London schools?
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. All right, so looking at primary school, we can say oftentimes if you have an altercation with someone,
Yeah.
what usually happens is the teacher might bring you in, you're both sitting there and you either like shake hands or something happens along those lines, right? And you either are friends the next day, or you just kind of form your own cliques and sets or whatever. Do you know what I mean? If you're more dramatic primary school like mine was. But I would say if you're in a non inner city state school environment, I think not the same thing happens, but something. So violence doesn't really go too far, so altercation doesn't go too far. But in an inner city state school, if you get into an altercation with someone, that could change the trajectory of your life. And that, for me, is not an over dramatic statement, because as I'm saying this, yeah, I have names in my head of people whose lives have been changed because of altercations they've had in secondary school.
As
Like,
young as year 7, year 8, year 9.
year 7, year 8, year 9, year 10, year 11, straight, like normal. That to me is, as I get older and as I look back more, and as I see more of the world, and you realize that is not the norm, you go, oh my days, like I would say we were just all victims. No, we were all at the mercy of our environment to a large extent. Obviously, we can't completely attribute environment to everything, because you get me, human beings, we have our own agency, etc. I went to a state school in South London. It wasn't the worst state school, bro. Like, there was much worse in it. But for me, like, look, the more I look back on that particular environment, if X gets into altercation with Y, both your lives could be changed, like literally, and the next 7, 8 years can be shaped by that, and that's standard. That's normal. That's not a big statement to me. I would say that's pretty normal. Bears out in the facts. I never tried an education because it was no point. It served me at no point.
So how did you get yourself out of that headspace?
Bro, I didn't really, to be honest. As in, obviously now, I mean, I don't think like that, if that's the short answer to the question. But the idea of getting myself out in some proactive way, like a Rocky montage, it didn't happen like that. I did my first year of sixth form. I didn't get any grades, basically, bro. Like, so I was basically like, I'm not gonna do any work. Not consciously, but I didn't really do any work. I just thought sixth form is just another stage. It's not real. Like, I didn't see sixth form, as logically as it sounds, I didn't see sixth form as a step towards an apprenticeship or uni. I just thought of it as just another stage, like just another type of school.
Like,
do you know what I mean? Just there. But then I think after that year, and that year it's something we can speak about. But after that year, it was like, okay, this is for real.
Okay.
Get me? Like, what I do now actually can kind of shape what my next steps are. And I think that realization, although it didn't happen proactively, it happened in response to looking at my grades and being like, oh crap, like what do I do now?
What options are open to you?
Yeah. that it was that realization and waking up to that kind of triggered the thing of, all right, cool, let me actually try and do this academic thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, like we're often reactive rather than proactive. Sometimes
Yeah.
we kind of look back thinking we were proactive, but there was
Yeah.
probably something we were reacting to. So yeah, after that first year of A levels, when you didn't come out with grades, what did you do next? Like, what was next for you?
I remember I came up. I remember I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to uni. And what did I even think, bro? That's a good question. I can't remember. I think I said, I'm going to go to you. Oh, no, this was the turning point.
Go on,
So
chat to
I
me.
started in my first year of sixth form, and I did not care what subject I did. To give you an example of what that meant, I chose my subjects based off the length of the queue on the sixth form choosing your subjects day. So I wanted to do, on that day, I wanted to do history, I wanted to do English, and I think I wanted to do psychology. But the queues were mad long, bro. Like, dumb long. Like, snaking outside this classroom, all of that. I was like, I'm not doing it. I don't care, bro. It's not that deep. I'll just do the shortest queues, yeah, were for maths, biology, and chemistry, yeah. That was the shortest. There was no queue for that, which I should have taken as a sign to, like, bro, we didn't. But anyway, there was no queue for that. And I should have known that I should not have done maths here, because in my sixth form at William Morris here, you have to get 5 out of 10 to do maths in like a short, like, little mental maths or whatever.
Yeah.
Bro, I got 5 out of 10 on the dot. I was like, bro, this is a sign. This is a sign I should probably not do this. And I was not very good at maths, bro. Like, I was not very good at any of these subjects. But
Okay,
the cues were short. I did them in secondary. So I was like, how hard could it be? I'm familiar with this. If anything, this is easier, because instead of doing 10 subjects, I'm only doing 3. So come on, light work. Obviously, little did I know. Yeah, I found that year, like, just dumb hard. I remember being in the exam hall and just thinking, what are you talking? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
You know, like, they say to you in exam hall, leave hard questions to the end, yeah. Bro, I was flicking. I was like, yeah, I'll leave that to the end. Next page, leave that to the end. Next page, next thing. There's no more questions, innit? So yeah, that was tough. But yeah, that was the turning point of just choosing subjects I was interested in. So I chose English, I chose history, I chose philosophy. And for me, that was the turning point, man, because then I was like, yo, this is actually interesting. And there was a moment in my English class, and I'll remember, I don't think I'll ever forget this year, where there was, like, you know, like, you kind of unearth an interest that was latent in you, but because you never pursued it or you didn't inquire into it, it just kind of dormant. But I remember my teacher saying to someone, so there was a girl in my class here, she was being rude or something to the teacher. And the teacher was like to her, stop being so facetious. And I remember when she said that word, I was like, yo, but it was like, you know, like a rap battle where someone goes, ooh, I was like that, but in my head, I was like, yo, facetious, that sounds mad. So I remember that, just hearing that word was kind of like, okay. And looking back now, I suppose those are the kind of the early signs of interest in a thing, because you don't, and I'll say this to anyone listening, whatever you respond to in a way that is more than a typical response to something, that something just happens, like, you're just kind of like, ooh, what's that? I want to know more about that. For me, that was kind of laying the seeds of what would go on to be, like, genuine interest in a subject.
That kind of sense of awe or amazement, like, where else have you felt that in your life, or when else have you felt that in life, even more recently?
Yeah, definitely recently, I can tell you. I'll probably say more football, bro. Like, I don't think I've ever felt it in any other. Before that, it was just football. That's about it, bro, to be honest.
Okay.
And more recently, it's definitely been the intersection of theology and law. Is for me, and sociology. So, like, those kind of intersections. So recently, I was watching an online lecture by a man called Dr. Sherman Jackson. It's called Islam in Black America. So it just traces the genealogy of Islam in America, from the slave trade to the Nation of Islam to immigrants coming from Indo-Pak and Arab world to pre 9/11 to post 9/11. And for me, that was something that it kind of that similar awe of hearing the word facetious and like, wow, this is mad interesting. So that's a more recent example.
What kind of projects have you been working on since you left school?
So yeah, after I left school, I qualified as a teacher of English as a foreign language. I did something called the CELTA course, which a lot of people do after university, and they use that to go and teach in somewhere, like usually the United Arab Emirates or Thailand or like Southeast Asia, that kind of thing.
What motivated you to do that course? Like, did you want to work abroad or what
A couple of things. Number one, I knew I didn't want to go uni straight away. So that was the top of the list. I do not want to go uni straight away because I remember doing a work experience during my sixth form time, and it was in a law firm. And I remember thinking distinctly to myself, I am in no rush to get here, fam. Like, man's not racing to sit behind a computer. I'm not doing that. That's stupid, innit? That's what I thought. Like, this is I'm telling you how my thoughts were in my head. It was just like, I am not in a rush to come and sit behind this computer. Like, cool. Obviously, it's a nice job. Obviously, it's a privilege to work there, whatever, all of that good stuff. But I was like, man's not cutting. Man's not blowing to get here. So I was like, that's number one. I'm not racing. I'm not trying to go to uni straight away. Number two, I was like, there's a thing that I'm interested in, and I've been working in the community anyway. So I'd been a sports coach. So I'd worked in schools, and I got that taste of like being in your community and feeling more part of your community. So I was like, that's interesting, and that idea of teaching is something I've been doing anyway as like a sports coach, etc. So for me, it kind of made sense. I managed to get funding for it, so I didn't have to pay it. It was quite expensive course, like £1,000 plus. So I managed to get funding for it, and so I was like, yeah, this is a reasonable way, and a way I can justify to myself to take a year out, because for me it was like, so long as I'm making use of that year, I don't mind. Like, that's calm. A year is fine as long as I'm making use of it.
What does making use mean to you? Like, then and now, has it changed?
Not really. It's been the exact same. For me, it's like, can you justify it to yourself? Can you say to yourself you'll be a more well-rounded person? And
I like that.
That, for me, it ticked those boxes.
Cool, I like that. You said sport coach. Like, when did that happen? Was that something you did part-time
big up Jacob, yeah. So you know my friend Jacob. Like, me and my friends, as we grew up here, we had a bring-in culture. Bring-in culture was strong, so that would explain the sports thing. So a couple of examples is, one, I remember joining a new football team in South London, and I rang up my friend Mergim, so he plays for Rising Ballers. So some people might have heard of Rising Ballers and some not. And now he's a professional footballer. So I remember ringing him, being like, bro, join a new team, come through. Like, straight up normal. And he came, and then we started playing together. And I remember Jacob. So Jacob started working for London Sports Trust through his cousin. Yeah. Rang man up, bro, job, calm. Like the thing is, you could work before my classes. I can schedule it around my sixth form time, innit? So I'll do like an hour here, hour there, 2 hours on Friday. And it was nice. Like, you're just working in schools and basically doing sports with kids. I'm hugely grateful for it now, because it shaped so much of like my idea of community, etc. But at the time, I was just like, man, just kicking, man, just playing sports, and I'm getting paid. Are you dumb? That's light work.
So sick.
And we used to do it with sometimes some sessions I'll do it with Jacob. So it'd be me and my friend, yeah. We were like 18, and sometimes we were teaching like 16, 17-year-olds. So these people there's not no difference in it. And so he's kind of just chilling with them, kind of like playing badminton or playing football.
What time of day did you do this? After sixth form,
any
in the
day.
Mornings?
Like, sometimes before class. So sometimes it'll be like 9 a.m. or 9:30. You go to like a nursery. So that might be, I remember doing that before English, and I was always late to English.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
And then I remember, I think it was on Friday or Thursdays, we used to go to a secondary school in Fulham, and we used to do football. And there was a game called Killer. So I don't know, like, you just know a lot. I just know a lot of games now because of this. Yeah. But Killer's basically it's like basketball. Everyone lines up in a line, and you have to take a shot in the net. If you get it in the net, the person behind you is out. Ooh. Unless they score as well.
Okay, I get it.
But if you miss, the person has to take a shot from where the ball lands. Yeah, so that's Killer. Yeah. So we do that for an hour and then play football for an hour. So that kind of stuff. So that's Jacob bringing me in, and then I brought Ezram in, and then I've also brought Mo in, and then Mo brought another one. So, bro, basically, London Sports Trust for like 3 years, was literally just all our friends in it. We used to sometimes we'd be on the same session, so that was just live, and sometimes we do festivals. So literally like 6 hours in a park, and we're just doing whatever.
Crazy.
So a lot of good experiences, and another one is Vodafone. No, TK Maxx. Bro, this is the highlight of the bring-ins. Yeah. Mo started working in TK Maxx in Isleworth. Yeah. And he was like, bro, I got a job. Come through in it. And he's like, the manager's my G. So you don't really have to. He's like, you don't have to interview, but he'll just interview anyway.
That's true.
Bro, imagine getting interviewed, yeah, and he's asking you all the real questions, but you both know I'm already in. Yeah. You get me?
Wait, did the manager know that you were friends with him?
Yeah. So he's basically like, bro, just bring him in it. Like, it's normal. We'll interview him for the show, but he's in already in it. So that was hilarious because it was a proper interview, so everything. But he's like, yeah, you got the job anyway. So did that. And then again, all of our friends basically came through TK Maxx. Everyone's working at TK Maxx now, innit, for that summer. So yeah, very strong bringing culture. Why did we talk about bringing culture? Because of
Projects.
projects.
Because we were talking about how you eventually went on to do your own projects. That
Okay,
were,
yeah. So that was kind of like that was just normal. Even my friends now, like, it's just standard stuff in it, and something I'm grateful for. And I think that is yeah, man. It's just like the code of just being friends, isn't it? I don't know. Can you speak to that?
I'm very interested to know, like, where that came from.
Yeah.
Part of me thinks that one individual created that culture or started that culture,
Yeah.
and everyone else kind of picked it up, whether or not it was something they've been doing their entire life.
Yeah.
It's just something that's been going on for a while. I don't know, but that's just me. Like, for me, if I was in that environment, whether or not I'm used to bringing people on, seeing my friends bring each other on, it just means that this is the social norm. Like, this is how we do things within this context, within this environment.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, how would you explain it?
I'll probably say I think it could be to do with where opportunities are found.
Yeah.
If opportunities aren't found, like, through your family, let's say, then
exactly.
the burden's gonna be more on friendship groups.
Yeah.
I would say maybe that's an explanatory factor in that you look outwards instead of inwards, and so you're more reliant on outwards because that's gonna be where a lot of the opportunities come from. If you know what I mean?
No, for
So
sure.
that could be something.
But yeah, you said that you started to kind of get involved with your community a lot more.
Yeah.
What did that look like?
Yeah, so I like one example I can give you is like going to Iceland to get shopping for my mum and bumping into like a little kid with his mum and saying hello to him on the way to Iceland.
Yeah.
Like something small like that. If I didn't do it, I would not know you. But I know this guy. I know he lives in that block because I coach in that block and in their little pen. So we used to do that. Do you know what I mean? Another example I can give is I remember in my this was like the first time I coached. We used to coach I coached for a long time in a estate in Fulham called Townmead Estate in Sands-End, yeah. And this is just like a typical estate in London, yeah. So you get me, you'll find every kind of person there, whatever. But the kids generally is a nice time in it. But a kid, he was going to the shop on the break to get like ice lolly or ice pole, and then on his way back he got trapped in between a ped and a car, and he basically fell to the ground. I don't think that any injuries he sustained were mad or not even very bad. I think he basically came out the next 3 days and he was playing out again, so it wasn't that bad. But I remember that like idea of like everyone being like, oh crap, we have to go tell his mum, where does his mum live, on this door, like these kind of things of like community building. Just understanding like, look, something happened to someone's got to break the news to his mum. Someone might have to go to hospital with her. But all of this, just because, you get me, like you're all there kind of thing, or you're all from the same block. So those kind of ideas of community, I think for me, that kind of instilled, laid seeds, which, like most things, you only kind of realize them looking back.
I'm looking at the story, and you did your CELTA. You spent some time working on different projects.
Yeah.
And then when did you know it was the right time to apply to university? Because you just said that university wasn't something you wanted to do straight away.
Yeah. So after doing the CELTA, and I started a charity called Language in the Community. So I was running that for a couple of years, but it got to a point where I had to sort of turn my head towards university. I knew I wanted to go to university, but not straight away. And Litzy had got to a point where it could be self-sustainable. Like it didn't need to run in that same way. We could change the way we do it. So like project-based. So we work on a project, execute, work on the next project. And so that's when I started thinking about unis. So my first year of uni was at King's College London. I was doing ancient history there, which is a mix of what I was doing for A-level. So it was philosophy, but ancient philosophy. It was English, but ancient literature. And it was history, but ancient history as the three. So I was like, yeah, this is what I enjoyed, basically. So I did that for a year. And my year at King's, man, it was hugely transformational.
Really?
Yeah, hugely transformational. The power of people is something that I came to really appreciate from my year at King's, like the what it is to build culture, the importance of good people, how my criteria and yardstick for like the people I want to hang around with, all of those things were refined and developed when I spent my year at King's. And I would say that the reason why it's probably really transformational is because I started King's at 21, yeah. So I started when most people are in their final year, like third year. So I came into uni thinking, like most of my friends are finished with this. Like, what's this place? What can I really get out from this place? Do you get me? Like, I'm at the end of the scale, so I don't know how much this place is gonna benefit me, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
So it wasn't as rose tinted as it would have been maybe if you were 18. Or
Yeah, but more so it was more, I suppose, a sense of arrogance in that, like what? I'm not gonna. There's nothing really to change about me.
Cool. Expectations were low then.
Yeah, but less so because of the institution, and more so because of the position I found myself in. Like, I've been 21, I worked in uni, So I was like, uni is just is a formality because I want to learn about this thing. Uni just happens to be the place that's there. But that kind of idea was shattered basically pretty quickly. I remember in my first week bumping into Yusuf LT, yeah. I'll never forget this. This is my first week. We both come out of the building at King's. He's wearing a full suit with the waistcoat, bro. Like, I don't know if you'll remember this, but we end up jumping on the same train. And he is a medical student, and he was taking a year to work in the student union, but as a full-time job, yeah. So he was doing this, and we were just walking and talking back to the tube, jumped on the tube, was speaking, and he was kind of telling me about his ideas and basically why he thinks student politics is really important, and what he wants to do in the future as like a medic, and what he was doing like later that day. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, I got Quran class, I have to go to do this, and we just had like it was a very full conversation for like 7 stops. You know, like in London where you have to gauge your conversation on the stops. We can't exactly. You get me? So it was. I just remember going away and thinking, wow, bro. I remember being blown away and like mentally, like, what the hell? Like, that is mad. And so for me, that was let's call that a lesson, yeah, of never underestimate people. And that's not to say I was underestimating Yusuf, but I was underestimating the position I was in that, like, Kings, whatever, bro. Like, man's 21. I'm just gonna cut through, and you get me? And the lasting impact that conversation had on me, and like future conversations for me, it kind of shaped a lot of the way I kind of went into conversations and viewed the places I was in. And it was like there's always going to be like the next person that can change the way you think of things can be around the corner.
Why did you leave King's? It sounds like an amazing place for growth and development and like broadening your horizons. Why did you leave, bro?
So the main motivation to leave was academic.
Cool.
So I did ancient history. I did the element of theology, and I was like, I want to do more of this. And so I applied. Like, my initial instinct was, alright, cool, I'm gonna apply to King's to just change course, or just change course internally without having to apply. And then they said, no, you have to apply through UCAS. You can't just change internally. And so I was like, all right, cool. So I applied to King's through UCAS and applied to 4 other unis. One of them was Cambridge. And at Cambridge, the course was very broad. It was theology, religion, and philosophy of religion. So I was like, cool. So I applied to those 4 unis. The only uni that accepted me was Cambridge. So King's rejected me for that course. So in a sense, I had no choice. But yeah, it was mostly an academic reason. Me, Cambridge just allowed me space to kind of grow and just think and pursue my interests beyond academia. I think I have to stress that, because in large part, I knew coming here, I was like, this for me is my life. And what I mean by that, yeah, is I think I fell into the trap here, and I think a lot of my students do this, yeah. I mean, some of my friends, they fall into the trap of thinking university is a formality or a stage and then once you finish that stage, now it's your life. But for me, I came into uni because I was a bit older, perhaps, because I'd done other things, knowing that, no, this is my life. Do you get me? It's not like the last stage until I go out into the real world. This is the real world in a sense. Like, what I do now is who I am. It is. Do you get me?
Yeah, I get what you mean. Not putting things off because...
Yeah, I remember my sister saying something to me. The future is now. Like, your future is now. what you do now is who you are. And so I think for me, it's allowed me to kind of pursue interests, pursue what I find, like giving me kind of that freedom to just delve deeper into things I'm interested in. And that doesn't really have to be to do with the law, which was what I'm studying now. And just, I suppose, giving me that kind of, just go out and just, what are you really interested in? And just pursue it further. Like, what do you really want to do? And like, why don't you just go for that? Like, what, not to say you're going to say whatever, like, what is it that you just think is the coolest thing in the world that you can do? Just go and pursue it. That's kind of it, giving me, I suppose, that kind of freedom. But I don't know how much, to be honest, I would have to say the final thing is, I don't know how much that is, I can attribute that to Cambridge as a unique institution, or just that the fact that you're just a uni student and have that time.
To another institution, you've been to another university. You have quite an interesting perspective, both of them for undergraduates, so it's not like one was undergrad, one was postgrad. How would you say both of those unis compare to each other? Similarities, differences.
So different. I can give culture.
Culturally speaking.
What else? I say there's two things that come to mind, right? One is what I noticed about Cambridge is, for a lot of people that come here, being intelligent is part of their identity. And what I mean by that is, if you're told through secondary school, primary school, sixth form, you're clever, and you're getting shown that, like, you're winning prizes, you're getting top of the class, your students refer to you as the clever one, whatever, throughout your whole life.
The one that's going to Cambridge.
Then all of that means that being smart and doing well is intimately tied to who you are. Once you get to a place like Cambridge where everyone else is clever, this is something we've spoken about, but then it's kind of like, okay, who am I then? Do you get me? Because if so much of who I am is not very unique anymore, then it can lead you to a pursuit of either an existential crisis of, like, who am I really, or just or in a more positive sense, pursuing other interests. Like, all right, let me do a little bit more of this, let me do a little bit more of that, let me focus a bit more on these other things that are going to allow me to be more well-rounded. Because in a sense, like, the clever thing is, all right, cool, I've done that and we can build that, but let's look for other things. Whereas at King's, there wasn't that. And for me, that was a huge benefit, because generally at King's, you start off trying to be well-rounded. Because the people that I met at King's, they were phenomenal in so many things. And the only way to describe them, is that they were like me, but just mad. Like, they were like me, but they were just doing phenomenal things. And for me, that was important to see, because the idea of, like, being successful and doing well, it doesn't look or walk or talk a certain way. Do you get what I mean? It's a lot more just what you get up to in your spare time and how you spend your spare time. I don't know how well I articulated that, but it's very clear in my head. I don't know if it's as clear in terms of what I said.
I feel like it links to something you said earlier in the conversation about, like, making the most of the year is just coming out of the year as a more broadened person, as someone with broadened interests, broadened horizons. And it sounds like the people at King's seemed a bit multifaceted. Like, there was more going on than just their studies. That wasn't the main topic of conversation.
So that's one way I would describe it. Like, if I bumped into someone on the corridor at King's, I would never talk. Like, not I, but it would be odd to talk about your studies, to ask, like, to go into it. Do you get me? You might, if you do the same subject, cool, but generally you're not talking about that. You're talking about everything else. And whereas at Cambridge, it is more, I suppose, academic centered, and you talk more about. But listen, it's not to say that one is good and one is bad, but it's just that is a difference, and that's a stark difference I saw and I've seen. The idea of academia being more important and more. Do you know what? I don't even think importance is the right word. It's just a more part of who you are. But there's a lot of disadvantages to that. One being this pressure to kind of demonstrate your intellectual ability in day-to-day life, when it doesn't, like, no one cares. But you might bump into someone on the corridor and you might just want to quickly demonstrate man's really supposed to be here. You get me? Whereas because at King's, that's not part of the dynamic. That's your business. At Cambridge, that's everyone's business. How clever you are is everyone's business.
Let's talk about success. What does success mean to you?
Success for me is being able to explore your interests, express yourself creatively, and create your own opportunities. That's success to me.
And that's a wrap. Yeah, man. Is there anything you want to say to the people listening about what's coming up with Have You Met? Or what they can expect from us?
Yeah, so before I do that, I would definitely reiterate, do share this with someone that you think might like it, and rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. All of these kind of things just help us and help us continue doing what we're doing.